Hi, and welcome to this live reading from To Be a Fae Queen by Tricia Copeland, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. I glance up at my crystals as the last rays of the setting sun cause splotches of amber to dot the stone walls and ceiling. It is my favorite, yet saddest, time of day. I dread and cherish my next task in equal measure and linger at the window to relish the last bit of sun on the meadow. Forcing myself to turn from the scene, I raise my wings. Light from the window shines through them, causing the room to glow with a slight green tinge. Crossing to my doors and opening them wide, I scan my ceiling to savor the dimming light illuminating my prisms. I close and open my wings, rising into the air and exiting my room. Flying through the castle to my parents' chambers as I do every night, I alight in their study. Mother sits in front of the fire, harp on her right, father on her left. Seeing his chin dip, I approach Mother. I kiss her cheek. "Mother, will you play for us, or shall I?" She blinks, and I think I see the edges of her mouth turn up just a hair. Sitting on the hearth before her, I await a reply. Had I imagined a slight smile, or was it wishful thinking? Her gaze shifts to her lap. "Perhaps you could play Titania. Your mother loves hearing you." Father stands and wraps his hands around her shoulders. Mother's eyes stay trained on the flames in front of her while I slide the stool to the harp and begin a tune. After years of lessons, I play well, but nothing like Mother used to. She could draw tears from a crowd with one pluck of a string. Father retakes his seat, and I note his furrowed brow. Laying a hand across the strings, I halt my song. "Father, is something wrong? Surely Mother will—" I swallow before uttering the same hope-filled words I repeat every night. "She will be better when her mourning is over. 1 year per lost child seems appropriate. Several years have passed since my 4 brothers were slaughtered while fighting the Kobold army. 3 years since we have heard her voice or gotten more than a blink of her eyes in response to kisses, hugs, condolences, pleas, and sometimes, on my part, tear-filled rage at her inability to see I not only lost my brothers but my mother as well. I thought one of her sisters would stay after the official mourning period. I loved having my cousins here, but each of the aunts crumbled under the duress of Mother's catatonic state. Father offered their husbands prominent positions in the army, but after the prior massacre, even the promise of wealth and admiration would not sway them to stay in our kingdom, and they sailed north, over the sea, to their home in Bedham. As much as I wanted to, I could not place blame. Each kingdom faced their share of foe, but none proved more dangerous than the Kobold. Many thoughts weigh on my mind. Father's voice brings me out of my self-pity. "Please tell me." "Finish your tunes first. They bring me joy." Not knowing how else to help, I begin a new song. He works hard touring the countryside with his guards, hearing grievances of our people, and keeping the accounts balanced for the kingdom. I worry he is lonely with only his advisors to converse with. Once the ballad ends, I spin my stool to face him. Taking a deep breath, I wait for him to speak. He smooths his beard and begins the story of the Kobold, how they live in caves and hollows between our realm and lower earth. "Father, I know the histories. I am not a child anymore. Please, just tell me what troubles you." I guess that he may not wish to dwell on all we lost either, especially as we try to keep our nights together happy and carefree. With my brothers gone and my mother's condition, he and I only have each other. His 2 brothers and their sons were killed in the battle as well, leaving us the last remaining royals of Auburn, me the only heir to the throne. Seeing Father raise his hand to his beard brings me back to the worries at my hand. He spins a lock of the curly hair between his fingers. "You will be queen one day. I guess I cannot shield you forever. I just know the anxiety the memories cause you." Remembering the purple wings and gnarled claws of the beast that tried to kill me, my heart rate rises. The Kobold have returned? Staring at the flames, he rubs his hand down his pant leg. Several anchor crystals that support our fairy ring have disappeared. We believe a mutant kobold took them. Soldiers found footprints near a cave in the wood on the eastern side of the kingdom. My heart thuds and mind reels with the implications of the missing crystals. The fairy rings create portals between our realm known as Middle Earth and Upper Earth. If the anchors cannot be replaced, the ring dies, the portal closes, and we will be cut off from all that is above. Sun, rain, and winds to clear our air. With no light and water, our plants will die and our animals will starve, and with no access to Upper Earth, we will die with them. Mutant kobold? Why do you call them that? Do we not have multiples of the crystals? Why not replace them? We found footprints in the wood, but the ring keeper was not alerted to the kobold's presence. Somehow they stole the anchors without being detected. We believe either they have bred with a magical being or were aided by magic. And yes, you are correct. There is one additional set of crystals set aside for each ring. But we cannot risk these being taken as well. So gather a group of soldiers to investigate. Surely the kobold did not just disappear. I cannot send my fae into the caverns below. It is too dangerous. Too many evil beings lurk about. I have posted guards at the cave entrance where we saw the footprints. If they come again, we will be ready. My heart races and sweat beads on my forehead. I sense the first warning signs of one of my episodes. I picture my crystals hanging from my ceiling and take a slow, deep breath. Crystals. If there's anyone better at finding crystals than I doubt it. I'm good at finding crystals. I could learn what we need and search the streams for new anchors. The water brings them down from the mountains. Father shakes his head. It is too dangerous. I do not have enough warriors to guard you, guard the fairy ring, and watch for the kobold. There are far too many fae for the kobold to overtake the whole realm. What do they hope to gain? Father paces to the hearth. A foothold, perhaps? They have attempted it before. It is not unprecedented. Perhaps their numbers have grown too fast for the caves. They seem to be getting desperate. Either that or there is a darker force at work here. Do you really believe they have developed magical abilities? A chime sounds from the clock on the mantel. My eyes cut to Mother, wondering if she registers our conversation, holds opinions, or even cares her daughter and her husband need her. I have kept you too long. You need your rest for your studies and training. Father crosses to me. He leans over and kisses my forehead as he does every night, but his smile does not reach his eyes. I want to help. If there's anything I could do, I have my generals and advisors. You need not worry. Okay. Good night, Father. I wrap my arms around him and squeeze his shoulders. Approaching Mother, I bend over and take her hand. Good night, Mother. I love you. Her stare does not move from the fireplace. Still, I pull her to me and kiss her cheek. Fighting the water pooling in my eyelids, I beat my wings and take to the air. I fly out the door, maneuvering through the halls to my room. I click my door shut and press my back to the soft wood. Heart pounding and breaths becoming jagged. I imagine the worst. What if these kobold and their new magic steal all the anchors? What if they overcome our troops? I slide to the floor and stare at my crystals, trying to control my breathing. The cool stone beneath me calms my nerves. Father will figure this out. He always has in the past. We lost many in the last battle, but were victorious in the end. Rising, I cross to my dressing table, brush my hair, and dress for bed. Carrying my candle to my bedside, I slip under the blankets. I pull them up tight around my neck and study my crystals overhead. The fairy crosses are not the most popular because they are mud brown. Some of them form diagonals, but I keep only the most perfect right-angled versions. I polish each face so they reflect the light. The candlelight bounces off those above me. They protect their owner from bad luck and connect the spiritual planes. My brothers helped me start the collection, and it helps me feel connected to them. Beginning my ritual of counting each crystal, I pray, as I do each night, to grow strong and wise enough to make Father proud. I shall be 17 in just over a year and ready to take a position on Father's council if they will have me. If not, I plan to find a way to prove myself. I bite my lip as my pulse quickens. How am I, an anxiety-ridden girl, to rule a nation? Do I even want to follow in Father's footsteps? Have the weight of a kingdom on my shoulders? Perhaps I should focus on searching for a distant relative, someone untouched by memories of past battles. There are more pressing issues, I admonished my thoughts. The fairy ring must be preserved. That should be my focus. Sleep evades me as I toss over ideas for helping Father. Giving up, I slide from my covers and slip on a robe. I take to the air and weave through the halls to the library. There, I search for texts on the fairy ring. Arms loaded, I make my way back to my room, dropping the books on the bed. I read through each one, making notes on descriptions of the anchor crystals. Studying the texts until deep in the night, I fall asleep and dream of the stones, guards, and mutant kobold. I wake to the sound of birds calling, not the normal chirps of morning, but ominous tones of premonition. Sitting up, I note the time and wonder why my curtains are not open. No breakfast tray sits on my table. I have slept well past mealtime, nearly till mid-morning, yet little sunlight reaches through the slits in the drapes. Throwing off my covers, I race to each window and sweep the fabric back. Muted light greets me, and I peer out over the orchard, noting the dull green of the leaves and somber gray sky. My breath catches in my lungs, and I bolt to the door. Flinging open one panel, I stop short. Elfrida stands, one hand balancing my breakfast platter and the other over her heart. "Blessed be, you scared the life out of me!" "Has another crystal been taken from the ring?" "Well, good morning to you too, but that is not for you to worry your pretty head about. Your father does not want you to alarm you. He ordered me not to draw your curtains." "Did he think I would not notice? I am not a child. Were more crystals taken by the kobold?" I put my hands on my hips and glower at her, astonished they thought something like this could be kept from me. "Nasty creatures." She skirts around me to the table, setting the tray down. "Goodness, what is going on? Where did all these books come from?" I flit to my bed and gather the texts. "I thought I could help Father by studying the crystals of the fairy ring." "Eat your breakfast. Your father ordered that you stay within the castle walls." "What about my walk in the wood with Mother?" Elfrida cups her hand on my cheek. "I know your pleasures are few and far between. With the threat from the mutant kobold, your father's fae are spread thin. He does not have enough soldiers to watch for the kobold and guard you." "I am not a child. I can take my bow." "Dear," Elfrida shakes her head as she backs toward the door, "do as you are told. Your father has enough worries without thinking of you being in harm's way." Inhaling, I dig my fingers into my palms, hardening my resolve. I hate being coddled. I am 15, almost 16, not a youngling who needs to be protected. Slumping in my chair, I've pulled the breakfast tray to me. While I chew, I count my crystals. My eyes trace the pattern on the ceiling, starting with the outermost circle and following the concentric rings to the center. 1,000. A smile spreads across my face and I release my breath. Saying a silent prayer to the goddesses, I snatch the last berry from my plate. Slip on a top and some walking pants and take wing in the direction of Mother's chambers. She sits in front of a mirror, a lady brushing the long strands. The handmaid hands me the brush and I rake it through Mother's soft locks. Muted rays from the window cause her straw-colored hair to glow. "Your hair shines like the sun today, Mother. We will be walking in the garden and orchard instead of the wood. The apples are ripening and we might find a tasting one." Studying our images in the mirror, I remember how she used to braid my hair and wind it atop my head. We look so different, and I think it odd how we contrast each other. Her with blue eyes and light hair, and me with golden eyes and dark mahogany hair like Father's. Thornton-flavored Father as well. But my brother kept his hair and beard so short it did not seem a prominent feature. Garrison's and Bryce's color matched hers. I picture their light beards in my mind and how Garrison doted on me, teaching me to hunt in the woods. Hair the color of strawberries graced Rigel's head, and I almost laughed thinking of how our older brothers teased him. Seeing Mother's stoic eyes in the glass, I refocus on the task. I lift her arm, tucking it in mine, and lead her to the garden. My bare feet savor the feel of smooth, cool pebbles, but the dim light above me causes me grief. The mutant kobold must be stopped. Still, I force myself to walk every trail with Mother and wind to the orchard. Mother's arm twitches and her torso shivers. I wrap my arm around her back. I will take you to your room. I do not want you to catch cold. Leaving her with a lady, I take wing back to the apple trees. No noise from the castle reaches the glen, and I land between the branches. Even with the threat of the kobold, I relish the soft grass under my feet. I hear a crackling sound behind me, and I jump into the air. A limb rustles, and I project my voice. "Who is there?" A soldier emerges from behind the branches. "Forgive me, Princess. I am Foster." "What are you doing here?" "They sent me to watch over you." "Are you not guarding the crystals or watching the caves for the kobold? And why were you hiding?" His strawberry blonde lashes flutter as he blinks, and red-tinged bangs swish over his forehead as he shakes his head. "They sent me to guard you, but I was not to be seen." "Well, you have not done a very good job. Are you even old enough to be a soldier?" I try to ignore his large green eyes, squared chin, and muscled chest. He broadens his shoulders, and his wings, white with umber streaks, spread out. "I am 17. "How long have you been in the army?" 3 months. He lowers his wings, and I note the gold-tinged edges, wondering if they shimmer in the sun. I roll my eyes. I guess that means they do not believe me to be in any real danger. If Father sent Foster with the hope I may be distracted by a handsome boy, Father will be disappointed. He holds up his bow. "I have this." Shaking my head, I spin away from him. "Throw it to me if you spot something dangerous. I never miss. Do not call me Princess or Your Highness. My name is Titania. And stay at the border between the garden and the orchard. I prefer to be alone." But before he can utter another word, I charge him, snatching his bow from his hand and quiver from his back. I cock an arrow and release it. Some 100 feet away, it lands in the dead center of an apple, ripping it from its branch and projecting the fruit to the ground beyond. When I meet his gaze, his spring-green eyes lock on mine. "Yes, Your Titania." He speeds away, and I secure the bow and quiver on my back. It is much bigger than mine, and the weight of the weapon feels odd, but I decide I like it. Adjusting the 2 shoulder straps, I realize they hold the bag in place better than my sling. I shall ask Elfrida to have someone fashion a similar pack for myself. With the knowledge that Foster watches me, I cannot relax but still pace through each row, pondering how I may help Father. There seems to be little I can do from the confines of the castle walls. I circle back to the orchard's exit, retrieve the fallen apple, and take a bite of its flesh. "Here." I toss the quiver and bow to Foster as I cross into the garden. "Thank you." Weaving through the bushes, I sense Foster trailing me. I pledge to ignore him and make my way to the first class, history. With Foster by the door and my worry for the fairy ring, it is hard to concentrate. The schoolmaster reprimands me, but sends me along for my fencing and music lessons. Foster's presence feels smothering, and while it fuels me to swing my blade harder, the harp strings and our ears fare worse. Returning to my room to dress for the evening meal, I draw a bath. I catch sight of my bow in the corner and wonder if I may be of some use to Father as a soldier. Perhaps I could dress in their armor, and no one would be the wiser. Father retains hundreds of warriors. What is one more archer? But you probably know the woods and stream better than anyone else. The evening passes, as most of them do, with dinner in the small hall with Elfrida and Father's army general, Kane, dining with us, and my session with Mother and Father.